Honorable Santia J.O. Bradshaw, Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, the Honorable Wilfred A. Abrams, Minister of Home Affairs, Information and Public Affairs, Mr. Errol Maynard, Chief Fire Officer, Barbados Fire Service, Mr. Burkley Lowe, Chief Media Resource Officer, Acting, Media Resource Department, Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Fire Officers of the Barbados Fire Service, Officers of the Media Resource Department, Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training. Welcome to the launch of the animation Benny the Fire Cat. I am your Master of Ceremonies, Sandra Boyce. Today marks a special day in the life of the Ministries of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, and Home Affairs, Information and Public Affairs, as we celebrate the culmination of months of collaboration and hard work. To give the official welcome, we invite Mr. Burkley Lowe, Chief Media Resource Officer Acting of the Media Resource Department, Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training. Mr. Lowe.
Honorable Ms. Santia Bradshaw, Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, the Honorable Mr. Wilfred Abrams, Minister of Home Affairs, Information and Public Affairs, Mr. Errol Maynard, Chief Fire Officer, Barbados Fire Service, Fire Officers, Media Resource Officers, ladies and gentlemen, and viewers across Barbados, greetings. Thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in to be with us today. We are very pleased to be able to welcome those of you that have been with this project from the inception. The officers of the Fire Prevention Unit of the Barbados Fire Service and the officers of the Media Resource Department, as well as those of you who are here to witness the character Benny come alive. I'm extremely pleased with the collaboration between the Media Resource Department and the Barbados Fire Service to raise awareness of the work of fire officers here in Barbados and the importance of fire safety. Today marks yet another occasion of the wonders of collaboration. Two entities with diverse mandates seeking and finding common ground. While it is our mission to educate our youth, not for today, but for the world to come, the fire service is to ensure that we are all safe from perils that would prevent us from seeing that world to come. That common ground is to inform a nation by educating its youth, and in this case, in the methods of fire prevention. The Media Resource Department is proud to provide active support to entities such as the Barbados Fire Service and other essential services across the island. But today we are thrilled with the fruition of this partnership with the Ministry of Education. This is the second time there has been a collaboration between the Media Resource Department and the Fire Prevention Unit of the Barbados Fire Service. It is testament of the leadership of the two entities. This initiative sets an example for what can be done when government departments collaborate. And with that, I do appreciate everything that is being done to help with the broader education of our children. Recognizing that children are the best change agents in any society, we are pleased to be associated with this video. The video is intended to create an awareness among school children and hopefully the wider Barbados. My pleasure is heightened when I note that a graphic artist and a child involved in the creation of this video are from right here in Barbados. This we know and understand will lead to a higher probability of message acceptance. Only a unified national response is effective against the threat fire can bring. We know the critical role that education plays in our children's lives as Barbadians and how it influences their future, and so through this education media, the Media Resource Department is committed to making it safe as possible for children in their schools and in their environment by reducing the risk of fires in schools and other places across the island. As I reflect on the early conversations with the officers of the Fire Prevention Unit, of the Barbados Fire Service. I'm cognizant of the fact that collaboration is key to achieving goals. So, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. And I close with a line from a song penned to aid in the fight against COVID-19. Together, we are stronger.
We now invite Mr. Errol Maynard, the Chief Fire Officer of the Barbados Fire Service, to give us opening remarks.
As Chief Officer of Barbados, this evening is a very exciting occasion for me and the members of the Barbados Fire Service. Benny, a concept of 20 years ago, became a mascot, and hopefully this evening he will awake from a coma and evolve into a living entity. What we will witness here this afternoon is testimony not only to the talent and skilled resident in the government departments, and I speak especially of the Barbados Fire Service and the Media Resource Department, but also the commitment to service of these young men and women. This evening we will see what a little creative thinking and a mass of collaboration can do among forward-thinking people. Bruce Grandeban puts it this way. He contends that creativity doesn't wait for a perfect moment. It fashions its own perfect moment out of ordinary ones. The members of the Fire Prevention and Code Enforcement Unit, the Research and Planning Unit, and the Media Resource Department did not wait for the perfect moment, but rather they responded to an ordinary occasion and created their own. I commend you, and it is truly remarkable what you are doing to help develop the department and enhance the quality of service that is delivered to the public of Barbados. It is truly commendable. The administration of the service vow that they will do all possible to reach every resident and visitor to our shores with fire and life safety messages. We have tried television, radio shows, social media, and most recently the Firewall program. Additionally, we have continued our lectures to business places and community groups. All of these programs are pitched towards the mature adult, and I must tell you, with some measure of success. But we have not reached all as yet. There is much more to be done. Today we want to launch a different approach. We want to impact and create a community of safety-conscious citizens. To do this, we must start at the right place with the children. It is the children, if the children are safety-conscious, they will grow up to be safety-conscious adults. I believe that Benny will soon become a household name and a tool to promote fire and life safety among the young children. There is no longer a need for us to slavishly follow any traditional process or way of doing things. Neither is it necessary for us to be followers. We can and are leaders, and we can and are trendsetters. I must commend Mr. Lowe and the members of the Media Resource Department of the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training for so willingly agreeing to work with the Barbados Fire Service to produce the product that we will see this afternoon. I further commend the efforts of the Research and Planning and the Fire Prevention and Code Enforcement Unit of the Barbados Fire Service for a job well done. Today we are provided with an additional tool that can aid with the proclamation of our life safety and code enforcement information, one that can be used on all forms of media to reach all audiences. While the pandemic is not the inspiration for this initiative, it is a beneficiary. I encourage all of us to take Benny home with us this evening, not only the physical concept, but also what he represents. I leave you with this quote from Dan Stevens. The comfort zone is the great enemy of creativity. I encourage all of us not to be a resident of the comfort zone. Thank you.
We will now have an overview of the project from the contributor's perspective. Ms. Natasha Forde, Fire Officer, the reviewer of the project, Mr. Andrew Taylor, Fire Officer, the scriptwriter and reviewer of the project, Mrs. Charmaine Seale, Media Resource Officer, Director of the project, and an input from Mr. Kendra Haynes, the graphic artist and animator of the project.
Hi, I am Fire Officer Natasha Forde of the Fire Prevention and Code Enforcement Unit. For months, I was wrestling with the knowledge that most of our literature came from the developed countries and we would have to modify it to fit our culture. It seemed in a time like this, we should have our own messages and literature which cater to our culture, something we could be proud of as a department and to which our people could identify and relate. In conducting safety presentations, especially at schools, we would always have to emphasize at the conclusion our emergency number was 311 and not 911. Coupled with this was the fact that these videos were not in our native tongue and we had children trying to mimic the characters. This began to wear me out. With the idea and a passion, I wanted to develop our own animated videos and flyers. I spoke to my colleagues about it, who wholeheartedly agreed that that was the way to go. It was now time for action. A call was placed to Miss Charmaine Seale at the Media Resource Department, where I started ranting away. A meeting was soon set up, and again I exploded with the ideas that I was hoping to give life to. Praying my rants were making some sense. The vision was to have a mascot to disseminate safety messages to children and children at heart. A background history of the cat, which came to live at the Bradshaw Fire Station, was mentioned, as well as the fact that years before we had a Benny, but his life expired. We looked at fire stations across the globe and recognized that most used a dog, Sparky, or a bear, Smokey, to capture their audience. The idea of a cat had uniqueness. No one else was doing it. Mr. Burkley Lowe, the Chief Media Resource Officer acting, cemented the idea when he suggested writing Benny a new story, bringing him back from the grave. No sooner than the words were spoken, Fire Officer Andrew Taylor came rushing to mind. Anyone who knows Officer Taylor knows he has a quick wit about him and he is a master with words. Just listen to Benny's story and you will hear. We concluded the meeting noting there would be a series of discussions and meetings to follow. Of course, I could not wait to tell Officer Taylor about the plan. When I did include some cat eyes, he fell for the trap and agreed to rewrite Benny's story.
Hi, I'm Fire Officer Andrew Taylor of the Research and Planning Unit, and I'm also the writer of the Benny story. I would have been contacted by Ms. Forde of the Fire Prevention Unit, saying that she had an interest in reviving Benny the Fire Cat. I will admit, I was shocked because I thought Benny was a thing of the past, but I did not hesitate to join forces with the unit to give Benny a new life. I told myself that Benny needs a story. He needs to be reintroduced to the public in a familiar setting, and that was when I had my aha moment, to write the story in a village setting with its full cadre of characters. So I developed characters such as Kelher Rice and True Story. The names may sound strange, but when you hear the story, it will all make sense. I also purposely set the story in the St. Michael district, as unfortunately, St. Michael is where most of our residential fires occur. So the story was not going to be all fun, but bring awareness to the dangers that face homeowners and communities daily. I also wanted the overall message that reaches people to be one that we need to get back to the days of being our neighbor's keeper, being fire safe and fire smart, and also being resilient. It did not take me a long time to develop a story, but like any other piece of writing, I went through several drafts. And then when it was sent to the Media Resource Department, they made some slight changes to it, but never took away from the true essence of the story. Everyone working on the story knew that Benny was not going to be your typical cat, just prowling around the neighborhood. Benny was going to be a true village hero, always being in the right place at the right time. People ask me, but why a cat when most fire department mascots are dogs? My usual answer to this question is why not a cat? Why not be different? Why not set a new standard? So the new standard was set. We finally had the completed story, and now it was over to the graphic artist at the Media Resource Department to bring the words to life, and that he most certainly did.
I think I watched the video about 10 times just marveling at the excellent work done by the Media Resource Department, and not just telling the story, but adding the visual element to it. I think it can speak for everyone involved and say that we are all pleased and proud of the work that has been done. And we are eager to launch Benny and have him be a household name across Barbados. Spoiler alert, you will be seeing more of Benny very soon as his story continues.
Good afternoon. I am Charmaine Seale, Media Resource Officer in the Media Resource Department, Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training. When members of the Media Resource Department and the Barbados Fire Service first met on this project, it was but a concept. We explored the possibilities and decided that animation was the way to go. The benefits to education immediately came to mind. The National Curriculum for Early Childhood Education outlines a unit on community helpers, with the role and importance of the firefighter being just one of them. This partnership gave the MRD the opportunity to work with members of the fire service to present and depict the fireman in a way that would engage students. We wanted students to pay attention to the message being transmitted and for that message to stimulate further interest. The Benny animation highlights the need to be aware of safety in the home while providing a glimpse into Barbadian culture and practice. As the director of the project, my role encompassed several things: offering suggestions on the script, having oversight of the animation process, and above all, liaising with the members of the Barbados Fire Service to ensure that the collective vision was represented. Face-to-face and virtual meetings were held. Timelines and guidelines were set. Periodic evaluations of progress were done. Suggestions were offered from both sides, and changes were made to the animation along the way. I am pleased to acknowledge that the journey which we embarked upon has reached fruition. It would be remiss of me if I did not mention the graphic artist or animator, Kendra Haynes. Kendra took the script, interpreted it, and created the awesome artwork which blossomed into animation. His skill, creativity, and diligence to task brought Benny the Fire Cat to life. If you have ever watched any engaging animations, you would recognize that they consist of iconic voices which, along with the action, keep you glued to the screen. We were therefore on the hunt for such a voice for this project. We recognize that the narrator must connect with the target audience, in this case, children. I truly believe that the voice of Kelly Haynes was the perfect one to tell the Benny story. The names of two fire officers stand out: Andrew Taylor and Natasha Forde, as I interacted with them quite a bit. It was a pleasure working with these two individuals, as the lines of communication were always cordial, extremely friendly, and at times quite humorous, as ideas and advice were traded. I know that the members of the Fire Service and the Media Resource Department have established a professional and am projecting a long-term working relationship. So, let us continue to use our expertise to collaborate, create, and produce content which spread the messages we want our young people to internalize.
Hi, I am Kendra Haynes, the animator of Benny the Fire Cat. Usually animators work with an audio track to work out the timing of events and length of the scenes. When I first started the Benny project, I started to create the characters who would become part of the production long before the audio was recorded. I did the audio recording at home in less than perfect acoustic settings using the voice of my daughter. Everyone thought that her voice suited the project extremely well. In some of the takes, there were crickets chirping in the background, along with other noises that had to be worked around. With the audio completed and inserted into the timeline, lots of tweaking had to be done to match the audio with the animation. New scenes had to be inserted and animations lengthened or shortened. That meant that most of the previously recorded clips had to be re-rendered. Another challenge was the number of characters the story entailed. Being in a city setting meant that in addition to the main characters, many other supporting characters had to be created to give a city-like atmosphere to the scenes. All in all, projects like these helped me to hone my skills and develop as an animator.
We now invite you to view the long-awaited animation, Benny the Fire Cat. Enjoy.
Chaplin Street was an unusually quiet neighborhood, considering it was in the heart of the city. Nestled between Emory Avenue, a thriving small business community, and Sinister Lane, a district where rum shops outnumbered regular housing. Chaplin Street, like any other Bajan district, had its cadre of characters that made it unique. There was Mr. Ramsey, better known as Kettle Rice, because it is rumored that after his divorce, his wife left him with only a kettle and he used it to cook his meals. Then there was Mistress Duncan, better known as the True Story, because every time she was about to tell one of the biggest lies known to man, she would always precede it with, "This is a true story. If I lie, I die." Everyone is still amazed that she is still alive today. And then there was Benny the cat, bright and ginger in color. You could see Benny walking down the avenue from 50 feet away. Benny's father was a battle-scarred Boer called Binks, and his mother a slender Siamese called Jenny. Don't ask how they got together, but clearly love knows no bounds. It is rumored that Benny's parents were both hit by a car while they were on a garbage can patrol, leaving Benny an orphan kitten. And clearly, the adage that it takes a village to raise a child certainly extends to animals as well, because Benny was adopted by everyone in Chaplin Street. You may ask, but what made Benny so special? After all, there were plenty other cats in the neighborhood. Yes, that is true, but Benny was special. When Benny was a mere kitten, he strolled into the road, causing a motorist to slow down. And in a matter of mere seconds, 2 children came running across the road. On another occasion, a mother mistakenly left her baby in the car to run a quick errand, and Benny heard the baby crying and jumped onto the roof of the car, purring constantly, which drew the attention of a passerby who broke the glass and rescued the baby. So, from early days, Benny was seen as the rescue cat. He always seemed to be at the right place at the right time to save the day. People would always joke and say that if Benny were a human, he would be a firefighter. Every day of the week, you could see Benny patrolling the length and breadth of Chaplin Street, sometimes being a novelty, other times being a nuisance. After all, he is still a cat, malicious and mischievous by nature. It was a regular Saturday morning in the city district of Chaplin Street. One of the residents, Miss Maxwell, a strong 75-year-old lady who didn't look a day over 50, had started her day. Benny, the chubby, disgusting ginger neighborhood cat, who surfaced extra early on Saturdays, was already on the prowl. People were up and about, some minding their business, others minding other people's business, and some were skillful enough to do both. The elders in the neighborhood were preparing to go down to Cheapside Market to see what they could pick up to put in the pot. Market Day also gave them the opportunity to see old friends and catch up on the latest stories. It didn't matter if they were true or false, as long as the story was good. Nothing like a Saturday morning in the city. Miss Maxwell was hustling to finish up her sauce to meet her usual crowd who lined under her shed from sunup to sundown, eating every possible part of the pig while washing it down with a beverage or two or maybe even three. Benny's whiskers tingled and his eyes were alert as Miss Maxwell started setting out her containers for the pepper-laced pork and black pudding. She turned the knob on the stove to the off position, or so she thought, and went inside to cool off before going in the bath. Benny purred faintly, looking for any scraps that might have been discarded. Of course, Miss Maxwell didn't want him around trying to poke his pink, always twitching nose or dirty paw into anything she could. Bragadat! She whistled towards Benny, hitting the bedroom door, which slammed shut. A frightened but lazy Benny jumped running a short distance away. The pull of the pork was enough for Benny to raise paw and long but uneven whiskers to get a sample, so he waited out of sight. Miss Maxwell settled back into her cooling off position, but ended up dropping to sleep. The pot of pork that she thought she had turned off was slowly but surely getting hotter and hotter. Benny paced cautiously a bit, but was soon back to his annoying purring. By this time, the saucepan and its contents were starting to smoke, and Benny was doubly troubled. As a result of his acute sense of smell, he instinctively knew that something was wrong and that the pork was burning. Benny used his massive claws to claw and claw and claw away at the door of Miss Maxwell's bedroom until finally she was roused out of her sleep. In annoyance, she started to use some choice words with Benny, only to realize that she was smelling the distinct aroma of something burning. Benny jumped out of her way and followed as she ran into the kitchen. In the nick of time, Miss Maxwell turned off the low-burning flame under the completely burnt saucepan. Her kitchen was covered in a nice coat of black soot. Benny never left her side as she called her neighbor, who told her that she should still call the fire service, just in case. When the fire truck arrived, Benny was intrigued and slowly walked between the legs of the leading fire officer. He then leapt confidently into the arms of the fire officer operating the ladder, who gently put him down. Some of the fire officers entered Miss Maxwell's house and made sure everything was okay before letting her go back inside. Leading fire officer Mears told Miss Maxwell that she was extremely lucky, as she could have lost her home and possibly her life if she had not gotten up in time. If not for that disgusting cat Benny scratching at my door, I would have lost everything. It's funny I have to thank him for saving my life and my home, said Miss Maxwell. It was during the investigation that the fire officers had learnt of Benny's actions. All the while, Benny continued to look on with interest at the buzz of activity around him. While the other officers were packing up, the leading fire officer cautioned Miss Maxwell on fire safety. Soon after, the team left to return to the Bridgetown fire station. While unpacking the equipment at headquarters, a clang sound was heard among the gear. It was discovered that the cat had somehow squeezed himself into one of the open equipment lockers and was stuck. An officer called Miss Maxwell to inform her that the cat had somehow gotten into the fire truck and was transported to the station. Miss Maxwell, however, had no idea who was its owner. The cat had chosen them just as it had chosen Miss Maxwell and her neighborhood. All of the fire officers smiled as they remembered how this cat had knowingly saved a life and how he had fearlessly jumped into the arms of one of their team members. He was named Benny the fire cat and has been at the station ever since. Benny has been recruited.
I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. We will now invite the Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, the Honorable Santia J.O. Bradshaw, to give her remarks.
I'm extremely pleased with the collaboration between the Media Resource Department of the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training and the Barbados Fire Service to raise awareness about the work of fire officers and the importance of fire safety. We're grateful for the efforts of those who have been involved in this project from the inception. Special thanks to my colleague, the Minister of Home Affairs, Information and Public Affairs, the Honorable Wilfred Abrams, for embracing this initiative, as well as the officers of the Fire Prevention Unit of the Barbados Fire Service and the officers of the Media Resource Department for thinking outside of the box. This is a collaboration which demonstrates how two entirely different entities with diverse mandates can work together to find a common ground. We are all touched from time to time by the often heart-wrenching scenes where families are displaced as a result of fires which could otherwise have been prevented. In many instances, our children are also often the victims of these fires, and they too end up being displaced by the loss of personal possessions and shelter. The reality is that many of our children eventually become adults, and in turn, homeowners and occupiers of premises. It is therefore imperative that we arm our children with information on fire prevention and safety from an early age so that they can make informed decisions when they grow older. The Media Resource Department is always willing to provide active support to entities such as the Barbados Fire Service and other essential services across the island in order to create messages which are relatable to our children, using in some cases voiceovers in Barbadian dialect, puppetry, and animation. As we encourage our youth to become producers and creators of content, this initiative is a reflection of a wealth of Barbadian talent. The character Benny was animated by Barbadian graphic artist Kendra Haynes, the narration by Barbadian student Kelly Haynes. The script was written by Mr. Andrew Taylor, the leading fire officer acting, and even the imagery reflects Barbadian culture and familiar places of interest. Only a unified national response is effective against the threats which fire can bring. And I'm hopeful that this initiative, the first of its kind, will be the catalyst for future collaborations with the Barbados Fire Department and other stakeholders.
Hi. If anyone had told me that the Barbados Fire Service produced a story called Benny the Fire Cat, about a hero cat in a village setting saving the lives of his human counterparts with an underlying message about fire safety, I would have given them more than a look of disbelief. I probably would have laughed and called them a liar. I am, however, proud to say that the Barbados Fire Service has indeed produced such a story about such a character, and it has caused me to look at this department in a new light. The Barbados Fire Service is a very modern and forward-thinking department. This is demonstrated through their well-coordinated external and internal training programs. They are a website where anyone can easily access online forms for inspections, courses and burn permits, a fully functioning intranet which keeps officers aware of departmental matters, and an ever-growing presence on several social media platforms. These initiatives clearly show the makings of a department that is innovative, creative and decisive. as it ensures the fire safety message is tailored to reach every stratum of society. The issue of fire safety is one that has now become a priority for me, especially since my move to the Ministry of Home Affairs, Information and Public Affairs, where I assumed responsibility for the fire department. Speaking with the officers of the service and being informed of the statistics regarding residential fires, I now have a much better understanding as to why these men and women are so passionate about finding new ways to bring the message of fire safety to the people of Barbados. I wish to pledge my support to the Barbados Fire Service on this initiative and future fire safety initiatives as we seek to make Barbados a safer place to live and to reduce the number of people losing their homes to fires annually. I also want to thank my good friend, the Minister of Education, the Honourable Santia Bradshaw, and the staff of the Media Resource Department for partnering with the Barbados Fire Service in bringing Benny the Fire Cat to life. This is an amazing initiative, born of a collaboration between apparently unrelated departments. It truly shows what is possible when we work together. I look forward to seeing and sharing more of the exploits of Benny the Fire Cat.
I want to say a big thank you to everyone who restored my 9 lives. To the officers of the Fire Prevention and Code Enforcement Unit who realized how important I could be in spreading the message of fire safety and who didn't keep me as an idea but wrote me a new story. To the staff of the Media Resource Department who willingly came on board and gave me a fresh, new look, so now I'm purring, prowling, and ready for my new job. Thank you. Finally, I want to say a thank you to the Minister of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, Ms. Santia Bradshaw, and the Minister of Home Affairs, Information and Public Affairs, Mr. Wilfred Abrams, for giving me, Benny, the thumbs up. Remember, fire safety starts with you and me.